There's the light system technology. So the first thing before going into that we need to understand, everything is built on energy, frequency, and vibration, and that's where it starts and that's where it ends. Everything else is rooted out of that. The problem in the world that we're living in right now with our medical systems and allopathic medicine and so on and so forth is the fact that we focus more on the physical than we do on the root of what causes the physical to act in the way that it does. So the light system does just that. It's a technology that works on energy, frequency, vibration, light, sacred geometry, positive affirmations, photonic collision, and all of that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It's based on natural laws. It's based on fundamental laws.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I am very excited and honored to be joined by Jason Shurka. I've been following this man for many years and finally got some time with him, so I'm very excited about this podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about Jason, in case you don't know. Jason was born into a regular business and real estate family, but after a very dark night of the soul, which concluded in multiple surgeries and nearly having his leg amputated, he rose from the ashes and made significant life changes by following the fundamental laws of creation. He's dedicated his mission to unifying and awakening humanity to a higher truth. And he's also a world-renowned author of 5 different books. He's a producer, an entrepreneur, a visionary, a leader, a truth seeker. And he's also the founder of Unifyd TV, which I am a longtime subscriber to, Unifyd Healing, and Unifyd World Inc. And those organizations are responsible in their own right and in many ways for helping wake up millions of people around the world to their true power and potential through conscious media and leading edge technologies, which promote health and wellness. And he's been featured on even many mainstream news outlets, NBC, Washington Times, mainstream being what it is, and many others. And he continues to educate, elevate, and inspire. So without further ado, Jason, thank you for beaming in, brother.
Thank you, Faust. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome, man. I know we have a finite amount of time, so I want to jump right into, as I was saying when you jumped into the room, I've been a fan for a long time, and I've been able to witness and enjoy what you built, and it's been amazing. When I first saw Jason, it was so many years ago. He had appeared on Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia. And my God, how long ago was that? Like 2000?
I think it was like 2020, 2021. But
okay. It wasn't too. I thought it was a little further back. I'm always catching up on those episodes, so I never know what year I'm watching.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that kind of catapulted you into the forefront was the pyramid codes. And then, of course, the subsequent work, the rays of light. But so I think let's start with the pyramid codes. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because it's the name of your book. It's the document which you were entrusted to bring to the public forefront, which is kind of partially the way you built your platform. And so if you could take us a little bit into the pyramid codes first, and then we'll get into Ray and rays of light.
Yeah. I will say I didn't intend for any of it to ever even go this far. I didn't think it would. And there was no idea of building a platform or anything like that. Like you said, I come from a real estate family, and that was my focus. We were doing commercial real estate. Yeah. We still do. It's our family business all around the world. And this was more of like a passion for me. And I don't know how far out you want to go, even though the name of this podcast is far out.
We can go as far out as you want, brother.
Yeah. So I was, as you know, given that document by somebody who wrote it. I did not write it. I'm not the author of it in any way, but he gave it to me, and he gave me the option of sharing it with the world if I chose to. But it didn't start that way. It wasn't like, here, if you want to share this, share it. It was more so, here, there's a lot you can learn, and I think you're going to gain a lot from it. And I was the one that came and said, okay, this needs to be shared with the world. Can we do it? And the people that this man was working with, and now we're talking about the Light System Organization and all that, were the ones that wanted him to actually come out with it, and he didn't want to do it. So the compromise, because I was very, very pushy and very aggressive to get it out there for good reason, was, okay, Jason, you can do it, but you got to take out some of the names to preserve anonymity of certain people's
Hmm.
identities, which was fair. That's fine. It's not about people. It's about principles and teaching certain things about ancient history and whatnot. And on September 9th of 2020, I came out with this document. I shared it with the world. I didn't have a platform, but that's inadvertently what grew the platform because so many people read it. People volunteered all around the world to translate it. It's been
Wow.
translated to 10 different languages. And I think the first 3 or 4 weeks from when it came out, it was huge. And that really blew everything up. So that document is a little weird to the common person.
Hmm.
It's something that definitely resonated with me. It has to do with past life memories and reincarnations and things like that. And take it or leave it, but the information there is pretty awesome because it's sharing somebody's firsthand memories of what happened back in the day in ancient Egypt. Who built the pyramids, how they built the pyramids, why they built the pyramids, the technologies back then, where they came from, how they're used today, what countries, governments, and dark governments actually still have them today, and how they're using it in this case today for negative purposes as
Hmm.
opposed to the positive purposes that it was used for in the past. So, reading what I read and seeing what I saw, I felt that needed to be shared. The compromise was made. I put it out there. I risked my name. I risked my reputation. And there were people that thought I was crazy. And there was a very large group of people that really resonated with it. That was my mission. It was completed, and everything kind of kept going from there. And that's where Unifyd TV stemmed from, an
Hmm.
education platform to help make people more aware of what's actually going on around the world, not just in the spiritual aspect of it, but what's going on around the world with corruption, exposing corruption, so on and so forth. Then Unified Healing came. Now there's the light system, not the organization, but an actual organization, a company that brings out some of the world's leading technologies when it comes to light therapy, photonic collision, biophotonics, and helping people just reclaim their health to ultimately get people to reclaim their awareness and be powerful again.
That's right. That's right. I just came back from one of the many Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats that I've attended, and it's what he's teaching and what we're learning is how to move out of survival mode, how to regain that homeostasis and health, because it's so hard to not be in survival mode when you have a life-threatening condition, or a comorbidity, as they loved throwing that word around during the health crisis of 2020, let's call it, air quotes for my audio listeners, who know how I feel about that. And Jason shares my view manifold. I know that one of the things that you also saw some issues with was censorship during that
Exactly.
so-called health crisis. And it's so important, but health is wealth, and without it, the struggle is hard enough when you are healthy, but without it, it's a huge thing. So I'm hoping we can get into some of the technologies and centers that I know you've opened and that I know some people have been having incredible results at. Definitely going to try to save a little bit of time for that. You know, the Pyramid Codes is a document that people can go right onto your website. They can buy the book. Is that right? I mean, like, for people who are interested,
Well, the
it's
book is
easily.
actually free as like an ebook
That's right.
file on my website, jasonshurka.com, but we turned it into an actual book that you can get on Amazon because I'm a fan of having something physical
Yeah,
in my hand.
physical. Yes.
So you don't need to buy it if you want the hard copy. Sure, it's a few bucks, but
Mhm.
anybody can download it in 10 different languages on jasonshurka.com.
That's what I thought. I wanted to let you confirm that. I didn't want to say, oh, it's free, because I thought it was, but I wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
The other thing, which I really have enjoyed immensely, and I have a lot of shared opinions with your friend Ray, as
Yeah.
he's been known, and called. It's funny because when you ask him a question, his answers often mirror, like, right down to what I would say asked the same questions. Obviously, I don't have his kind of experience, or the experience that he claims to have, because and we'll get into the TLS, the light system, as you have described it for my listeners, is a more divine version, undercover, of the CIA. I mean, not that there is any part of the CIA that is probably divine, but people get the point with that summary that you gave them.
I think grounding it into reality just to make it easy to understand. if we can agree that there are organizations out there that are negatively polarized and negatively oriented,
Yeah,
then it only makes sense that the opposite exists as well. So we always focus on the negative ones, and many of them have gotten that name: the CIA, the Mossad, the Freemasons, the Bilderberg
sure.
Group, the Illuminati, which is a combination of many groups. So if that exists, it only makes sense that yeah, there needs to be organizations out there that also work undercover, but not to hurt people, but to counter those organizations' actions. And when I say it that way, people are like, well, that makes sense, right? The fact that we don't hear about them all the time also makes sense because human psychology, we always focus on the bad. We
Yeah.
always focus on the negative. It brings a lot more action to the table. But there's also the opposite out there as well. And the Light System is one of those organizations.
You know, it's funny because we live in a world where they make it hard to imagine that an organization such as that could exist because, you know, obviously all the power and resources seem to have been allocated and, you know, in possession of the families that are I mean, control and power and nefarious, you know, divide and conquer intentions is what they specialize in. But, you know, it does make sense to me. And God, if you would, you know, it gives me hope that that the Light System and there has to be sister organizations. It can't be a standalone, or it wouldn't be able to have the kind of impact it needs to have. So the fact that it exists, you know, I mean, like, and it's another thing that we're going to get into. I hope, you know, like you know, the word white hats was thrown around a lot with the QAnon movement. And, you know, that movement, I think in large part was a psyop, but it also brought out very important information to the public, you know,
Yeah.
like any good effective propaganda, you have to litter some truth in there. And there was a lot of truth in that movement about children and trafficking and all those things that we're not supposed to talk about so freely on YouTube that we'll talk around and our audience will understand. But I know it's one of the things that you and Ray talked about. So tell everyone who Ray is and how you, because you have a whole series of interviews with him, which I highly recommend to my listeners to check out on Unifyd. It's a streaming network. It's similar to Gaia. It's a great. It's one of the two or three streaming networks that I actually watch at night before I go to sleep instead of like Netflixing and chilling. But give everyone a quick idea of Ray and the interviews you've conducted with him and his experiences.
Yeah. So the series that you're talking about, there's two. There's one called the Disclosure series. There's another one called Conversations with Ray. That was almost like a spin-off. Instead of just the disclosure topics, there were many other types of topics that me and him have always had conversations about, and I wanted to bring that out to the public instead of just keeping it internal. So Ray is a man that works for that organization. He actually retired back in January 1st, 2025. So this year, he retired, his boss retired, everybody retires at some point. And if you don't retire, you die. That's generally how it goes.
Wow.
You either die doing what you're doing or you leave because you want to live somewhat of a normal life for the rest of your life with whatever you got left. And it's not a bad thing. It's these people are very dedicated to what they're doing. Most of the people that are in an organization like the Light System are not really married. They don't have kids. They don't have much to lose. They've dedicated their life to this, and that's what they do. So Ray is a little different because he actually, I mean, there is his family involved. You know, he doesn't fit that criteria.
Right.
And maybe that's part of the reasons why he also retired. He actually said that he wanted to live a more family oriented life and not be so chaotic in terms of what he was doing in his life. And he was actually given an opportunity to be one of the heads of the organizations in what they call the New York chapter, which is a massive honor, but it's a massive responsibility. And he turned that down. Somebody else came in, and that was part of his retirement as well. So he worked for this organization for, I guess, 14, 15 years since 2010. So 2010 till 2025. Actually, exactly 15 years because it was January of 2010 to January of 2025. I came in closer to, I guess the year was around 2020, but in 2018 was when I was approached and things really started and my world was opening up and things were being shared with me. There were a period of 2 years of like dripping information slowly because I would have gone crazy if they just shared one shot. And in 2020 was when I came out public with their permission, of course. So none of this is like a whistleblower.
Hmm.
Nobody's going against anybody. The overarching mission of what this organization holds is exactly what they've said many times. We're here to help humanity evolve and ascend. We're not here to infringe upon your free will. That's not what
Right.
these people do. And I know that there's a lot of other types of personalities and people out there talking about many types of organizations like the Galactic Federation of Light.
Right.
That this has nothing to do with that. If there's a connection, I don't know. But none of this has to do with anything that is intangible. This isn't, like beings, and I'm not
Right.
putting any of
Saying
the
that they,
thing, but none of this has to do with channeling. Like the people that I speak to, they're people that you can
right.
call, you could sit, you can eat with, they're real people, they're physical people.
You're not astral projecting to the
There's
Galactic
yeah,
Federation? Okay.
there's nothing
Because I
like
know
that.
people who are.
Me too. And again, I don't want to take any of that down, but
No, yeah, of course.
none of this has anything to do with that. This is a
Right.
physical organization that's very spiritually oriented in terms of the way that they do things. I think that's part of the reason why Ray also didn't agree with a lot of the ways that they do things, because he was very physically oriented. And he said, listen, you got somebody that's doing bad things to children, terminate them, neutralize them, get rid of them. And they come from the place of a higher perspective, not to say that that's okay, but I can understand their perspective too. Take somebody like Hitler. If you just kill Hitler, you didn't solve the problem. You just got rid of the problem temporarily, because the problem is a corrupted consciousness. So they focus on the root of the problem of how can we help expand consciousness? And yes, if we need to neutralize or do things along the way, we'll stop people. But that's not the first thing that you do. That's the last thing that you do when you have no other choice.
Yeah, Hitler couldn't have done what he did without a whole country backing him up.
Without a whole world backing him up.
Without a whole world backing him up, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. And people fail to realize that it took a whole country, I mean, and world to place him into, it's like it's easy to blame one person. But you've mentioned that TLS has been responsible for stopping certain natural disasters in 2022 and other horrors. And so I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit more about what you know about, some of their interventions and particularly what happened in 2022.
There's a lot, and I can share whatever I remember. And I would recommend everybody to go and watch that series as well, because there was so much information there that a person can't digest all of it. Even me sitting there and doing the interview, it's a lot. But I will say this, there are certain things, and I've never said this on camera before, and I think it's important for people to know. There are certain universal laws that they need to follow, and there are certain universal laws that we may also not understand, but I can understand to a degree. And I'll give you an example. And this has nothing to do with religion in any way whatsoever. No matter what, there will always be a protection around Jerusalem, not because of Judaism or Christianity or Islam, but because before any of those religions ever existed, that site, that place, has a certain energy to it that cannot be messed with. And in that case, they will stop certain things from impacting or affecting that, like let's say a natural disaster that would destroy the Dome of the Rock or the foundation stone. That's one of the things that I know for a fact they were able to interfere with. Why? I can give you my guesses. I can give you my understandings. I don't completely understand all of it, but I can understand to the degree of my limited capacity of understanding why they would protect a place like that. And it's because of the foundation stone. If you know anything about the foundation stone, it's where they say physical reality, everything physical that we see emerged from that point. Because when you think about it, anything that's physical, all matter, needed to start somewhere. And where it starts is energy. It starts in this intangible matter that then turns into physical matter. And many religions around the world also say the same thing. The foundation stone is that place, geographically speaking, where everything emerged out of, from the spiritual into the physical. So maybe that's why they protect it so much. One of the natural disasters that you're talking about was a major, and this is just, again, take it or leave it. This is just me being the messenger from what I remember. there was a tsunami that was going to hit Israel and also impact certain places in that area. Now, it's not about protecting Jewish people. That's not what we're talking about here. It's about protecting certain spiritual activation points for certain reasons that are beyond my capacity. And from what was shared with me back in 2021, 2022, there were certain natural disasters, in this case, a tsunami that was stopped that was going to hit that country and destroy certain things. And they did that from doing certain work from Cyprus. Now, if you know where Cyprus is, it's basically off the coast of Israel, far out, about an hour and a half flight. And it was coming from there to hit that part of the country or to hit that part of the world. And that's something that I remember that they stopped. There were other things in that same domain, like things that were going to hit the Boston Harbor, if I remember,
Right.
in New York City, that were stopped as well. Now, that's not so much protecting a geographical location for spiritual purposes, but if something takes that New York City, you got a really, really, really big problem around the world. That's
Right.
like, that's
Huge.
massive. That's massive. We saw what happened when 9/11 hit, and that's nothing compared to wiping out the city. That's just destroying some major buildings in the city and creating some destruction. So things like natural disasters in that domain were stopped, according to my knowledge, according to what was shared with me. I wasn't there. I can't prove it. I can only tell you what was shared with me. And the reason why I share it so confidently is because I've seen what they're capable of. They've told me certain things before they happened, and they happened. One of them being and I'll walk around it, what happened in 2020. They told me in August of 2019 what was about to happen. They said New York City is going to be shut down along with many other places around the world.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I'm like, what? That's not possible. That's never happened in the history of New York City existing. There's no way that something like that can happen, and it happened. And they specifically said there's going to be something that's brought forth that seems like it's going to be killing people, but it's not exactly what they're telling us that it is. And they implied some sort of medical situation.
Right.
You know, so that's one of them. The whole child trafficking thing was a very, very big piece of 21 and 22. And I'll say another thing that I've never said on air before. I don't think I've ever shared this. While their intention was to stop that, you also have to, when I say that, I'm talking about trafficking rings on a very high level, taking advantage of children on a very large quantity and degree.
Right.
Why did they stop if they didn't fix the problem? Why was it so active in 21, 20, and 22?
Right.
Not as active in 25. And I can't tell you that they're not doing any of that today, but it's not to the level that they were, and yet the problem still exists. So on one hand, they wanted to take advantage of lockdowns because everybody was in the house and they could do undercover at night, especially in Australia, in Portugal, in South Africa, and in New York City. They used Central Park for that. If you saw all those tents covering a lot of Central Park with certain operations that were being done, if you saw those big boats and ships that were coming on, I think I think it was the East River, whatever it was, but one of the rivers outside of New York City on the east or the west, where they brought massive ships to help people during this so-called
The Mercy, the USS Mercy. I went and visited it. I lived in New York City during this.
Yeah, they weren't using that for what
No, they didn't know. I sat there for days. No one went in or out. It was completely, I mean, it might as well have been a ghost ship. There was no traffic whatsoever. I was like, this is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
And I went to Central Park. I spied on the triage. Nobody was going in and out. I was like, what are we doing? I was going nuts, obviously.
So to my knowledge, the USS Mercy ship was being used to help some of those children. But one of the big things that, again, I've never said this on air, but I'll say it now because it's years later. One of the big parts of the operations of what they were doing when it came to those, if you want to call them rescue missions, where there were specific children that they were looking for. There were specific children that they were looking for. Those children had certain abilities that they were able to use for certain operations. And they kept going. And on the way, while they're going until they find them, they're saving hundreds of thousands.
Right.
But to my knowledge, that's when they stopped, when they found the kids that they needed to find and then use them. Of course, you know, teaching them what they're doing and all that, not in a negative way, but use them for certain operations because these children have certain abilities. Now,
they do.
How they knew what abilities each child, I don't know. That's beyond my capacity. I'm just sharing what was shared with me.
Yeah, and you know, for everyone listening, this is not. I'm not hearing something like this for the first time from Jason. You know, I've heard this from a myriad of whistleblowers and whistleblowers who have gone to Dr. Stephen Greer and said the same thing, that they target these children with certain psionic abilities for a multitude of reasons. None of them good for, you know, anyone but them. Almost all of them destructive in some way. You know, and so it's not, you know, not the first time that I'm hearing this, and it fits into what I understand about one of the reasons why they target certain children. And it's dark. It's really dark. You know, it's everything from like they're using, you know, a lot of these craft in the secret space program are they are piloted with consciousness, you know, I mean, naturally. And a lot of these children have, you know, they kind of train them and condition them almost like Minority Report, the way that they have those girls lined up in the water and they're just being used for their brains. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it has to do with scalar energy, and there's a lot of different things involved, but
You can
it's
you can use that for two reasons.
yeah,
When it comes to the organization, the good side of it, you can work with those kids, help them develop as they get older and mature to be able to do good things with those abilities. But like you said, there's the other side of it as well, where they'll target certain children or target certain individuals, it doesn't need to be kids, for their abilities to then use them in a negative way. When it comes to the Light System organization, to my knowledge, they use them for positive purposes. And I've
right,
seen it myself, right? They've helped me develop in many ways. And they came to me for various different reasons, just like they go to other people. You have something that we're looking for. In my case, I think it was more so communication, because that's what I was used for when it came to them. They helped me develop certain things and put me in the proper places and connected me with the right people. And it was all focused on a mission. That mission was, let's use this guy. And I was being used, and there's no problem with that, because for a good purpose. We're a soldier in something much bigger. Let's use this person for this reason to do something good and help them develop those abilities to get them to a better point to help this world.
right,
And in my level, it was just communication, to my knowledge. That's
right,
as far as I went. But other kids have some pretty incredible.
right. And one of the things that, just to piggyback on what we started to talk about earlier, that Ray discussed in one of the interviews with you, was that he was actually involved in one of these missions,
Yeah,
physically
yeah.
underground, which is very interesting. And another reason why I recommend those interviews on your streaming site with Ray. But, you know, so I I have, since I've taken this incredibly profound and spiritual path, I have been witness to many things that people would term supernatural. You know, people would call medical miracles. People wouldn't believe the things that I've been exposed to kind of on a regular basis over the last 7 years. Really, it's been about 6 7 years, and you know, like with energy, with what we can do with a coherent heart and mind. It's almost unlimited what we're capable of with this incredible technology that the creator has gifted us with to enjoy this life with, right? And I know that you also have your thumb on the pulse of this part of our reality, and you're working to try to bring that to the forefront. We absolutely have that in common. You know, I'm always talking about my experiences with you know, different healing modalities and moving energy from the heart, and how it can affect matter in physical reality,
Yep.
which it absolutely can. And you know, I just came back from this meditation retreat where again I witnessed things that medically should be absolutely impossible, and the doctors would laugh you out of the office if you told them, well, you know, we're just going to do 3 coherence healings on this person. You know, we're going to get really present, and then we're going to fill our hearts with love, and then we're going to allow that love to come out. No ego involved. All God, right? All creator, all source, and just let it flow through us and into this person. And after 3 days, you know, a nonverbal autistic child is speaking and speaking his first words and looking at his family in the eyes, and you know, like you cannot. There's no medical intervention that does this, and everything from like ALS to Parkinson's, I've seen it all rolled back into nothing. It's just there's those things are supposed to be, quote, irreversible. And
Yeah.
I know that's not true, but that's what we learn in this allopathic system. So, you know, I know that you've personally been involved in some of these things that most people would call supernatural. And I'm very interested in hearing some of your firsthand experiences, and I want to get into the centers that you've created as well.
Yeah. So one of the main things that I'm working on today is called the Light System, not the organization, although they gave me the right in terms of like when naming something like this, can we call it that? They were okay with that. They had no problem with that. But it's not the same thing. There's the organization and then there's the Light System technology. So the first thing before going into that we need to understand, and I know you understand this very well, but for all the viewers is everything is built on energy, frequency, and vibration, and that's where it starts and that's where it ends. Everything else is rooted out of that. The problem in the world that we're living in right now with our medical systems and allopathic medicine and so on and so forth is the fact that we focus more on the physical than we do on the root of what causes the physical to act in the way that it does. So they created a pill called Accutane that gets rid of acne, but it destroys the liver. Or there's so many examples of that. You have this pill that fixes this, but then you have this side effect because it destroys something else. That's called reductionism. And reductionism is taking the whole, breaking it up into its parts, and becoming an expert in each part without acknowledging the whole. Holism, or holistic medicine, or holistic ways of going about things, is looking at the entire whole. It's looking at the entire picture, understanding that you'll never be able to break down something that's infinite into pieces because it never ends. And therefore, it's a completely different approach. And that approach is, what are the governing laws of how health actually occurs in the body? What are the governing laws of the system of energy as a whole? And if we know those governing laws, then we know how to go about transmuting dis-ease into health. So the Light System does just that. It's a technology that works on energy, frequency, vibration, light, sacred geometry, positive affirmations, photonic collision, and all of that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It's based on natural laws. It's based on fundamental laws. So I'll ask you, Faust, have you ever heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto?
Check this out.
There we go. That's perfect. That's perfect. So for anybody who doesn't know about who this man is, he's no longer with us in his body today. But in the 90s, he was a Japanese businessman turned scientist. And he had a hypothesis. And his hypothesis was, is it possible for my words, my thoughts, my emotions, my intentions, even if they're silent, to impact my environment around me? What he did was, as you know, he took 2 cups of water, 2 petri dishes of water, same water, controlled experiment. And he did something negative to this one. So I hate you, you're ugly, whatever.
That's
and
right.
he did something positive to this one. He said, I love you and you're beautiful. And in some cases, he didn't even say it out loud. He just thought it, because thought has a frequency as well, just like the word of a sound has a frequency. The difference between the word and the thought is one is a frequency that you can't hear, but it's still a frequency. So now what's going on here is he took both petri dishes of water. He froze the water. And he looked at the molecular formations of water in each petri dish.
That's right.
And what he found in the negative one was distortions. And what he found in the positive one is the tattoo on your chest right there.
Beautiful geometry.
It was perfect.
Symmetry that you find, oftentimes in a snowflake that has fallen untouched. The geometry is just perfect. It's divine, and that's what we see when you say I love you, and then you flash freeze that water. You see this beautiful symmetry. If you say I hate you, it looks like somebody like hocked the loogie, and like it's all dissonant. There's a complete disarray in the structure of and so that's what we're talking about.
And the reason why that's so important to ground it into physical reality, because there's always a bridge between the energy and the physical reality that we're talking about, is electricity and energy moves through the water in our body. So we're mainly made up of water. And because we have certain minerals and salts and so on and so forth in our body, that is what conducts the electricity to move through the pathways of water in our body. So when we have distorted structures of water in the body, energy doesn't move well, it gets stuck. You have a dis-ease of energy. Energy doesn't move, it gets stuck, it's stagnant, you get sick. But when you have coherent structures like that tattoo right there, which is exactly what he saw, you then have coherent pathways of electricity to move through those pathways of water in the body. And that's what ease and health is called. So the reason why I'm connecting this to the light system technology is because one of its focuses, as crazy as it sounds, but it works, is positive affirmations. And what you see scrolling on the screens are positive affirmations that the individual, and this is what's unique to this technology that no other technology like it in the world can do. It has the ability to give the end user to program their own intentionality into the program. So you can actually change the affirmations on the screen of what you're targeting. And now you're then restructuring the water in your body just by being around this light. And then the energy moves in a more coherent way. So that's just one aspect to how it works. Then you have color therapy. You have photonic collision, creating a charge to recharge and increase the charge in your cells, which is also a measure of health as opposed to disease. And again, I can't make medical claims because it's not a medical technology. You, as a human being, are the medical technology.
That's
you are
right.
the medical miracle. It's just assisting and helping you synchronize with your highest benefit and your highest good. And we've seen people report crazy things. People that have bad eyesight saw their vision start reversing, their hair start growing. And by the way, I'm a perfect example because before this, 2 years ago, I was basically bald.
Wow.
And it's growing. You know, it's growing and it's getting
amazing.
It's really, really awesome stuff. And anyway,
That's right. I do remember that. You were
yeah. If you look at my pictures, you'll see it. And just to get this straight, it's not the technology that's doing it. It's your body that's doing it to itself. The technology is just creating a coherent environment for your body to do that. Now, that's one way of doing it.
Right.
But then you got eating good, drinking clean water, breathing, meditation, grounding.
That's right.
All of those things are free and they're important. The reason why I love the light system, the reason why I promote it so much and I stand so much for it is because it's an effortless way to do what everything else would help you to do. But if you're going to use the light system and then you're going to go and eat McDonald's, you can't do it. You need to take a holistic approach, and that's what the light system encourages. That's why I stand for it, and it's pretty awesome.
I've been excited to experience it when I get close to one of the centers. I'm in Georgia right now. I think the closest one to me is maybe in Florida. Right?
Awesome.
Is there? Yeah.
I think there are. I don't know. There's so many locations.
Yeah.
And Unifyd Healing is what you're talking about. Unifyd Healing is a network that represents many different types of technologies, and centers have red light therapy and cold plunges and infrared saunas and so on and so forth. But the light system is what Unifyd Healing is in direct collaboration with to bring to the world. So the best bet would be to go to unifydhealing.com.
Yeah.
And you can see absolutely everything over there. There's hundreds of centers around the world with many technologies.
Awesome. I definitely will be among the many people who do that. And I actually, have done that, but it's been a while. If people don't stop and realize that it's never really one thing that puts us into a state of dissonance or disease. It's usually a great many things. And then it takes years of those many things to kind of accumulate with this end result, which ends up being a symptom or a disease.
Yes.
And so if they stopped and thought about that, they would naturally think, well, if it took all of those things, then maybe it's going to take all of these other things to reverse that, to really get to the heart of that and to root it out of our system and to put something new, install something new there. And, what you're talking about is very much in alignment with what I know to be true and what I've experienced in my life and what I've seen others experience. I've met people who literally years ago, and we're still friends, they had 6 weeks to live. They were given 6 weeks to live, 8 weeks to live, sometimes 6 months. Yeah. But they're like, no, that's not. And they change everything and they're still here. So it's like anything is possible.
Because you can. I mean, the difference between health and disease is very simple. On the level of energy, health is energetic balance, disease is energetic imbalance. And if you just focus on how do I rebalance the energy in my body, well, then you're probably going to experience a healthy life. And there are many ways to do it. Yeah.
So tell me, my friend, what completely far out things have you been able to witness yourself? I know that you've learned a lot from people, but I'm also pretty sure that you yourself have been able to at least glimpse at some of the what things things that people would say like, no, no way. That like, really, how do you saw that or you experienced that? You know, I'm wondering if you have any, because I know that through Ray you've met some people and learned some things about humanity and who's here with us and you know what we're capable of that most people wouldn't believe. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that.
You brought up Rays of Light, the
Yeah.
book earlier, and I don't even have the whole book myself, not yet at least, but certain portions were given to me and they were shared with the world. They were translated from Hebrew to English and they were shared with the world. And the first one that comes to mind happened in February of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, right before COVID started, February of 2020. Very cool. So basically, on February 6th of 2020, I was called to a meeting with certain individuals in the organization, the Light System organization, not the company, but the organization. And in that meeting, there was a specific portion of Rays of Light that I was going to be given. But about a day or two later, I don't remember exactly when, within a few days, I needed to go to Costa Rica because I had a scheduled silent retreat that I was going to by myself to do 7 days in silence in the jungle. So I didn't yet get to read the book. I held it in my hand. I didn't read that portion yet because I
Right.
didn't have time to do it. I also needed help reading it because the original one was in Hebrew and I know Hebrew, but not to that level. So I said, okay, let me go to Costa Rica. I'll come back. I'll sit down with somebody in the organization that can read it to me and help me understand what I'm reading, and we'll take it from there. So that's what I did. I go to
Right.
Costa Rica, and 7 days I'm in silence. And let me tell you, I had the most incredible experiences of my life over there in terms of being so
Wow.
silent that I could hear and listen to things that I just was too loud before that to hear and pay attention to. I didn't even know what was going on. And there was almost like this, like, if you want to call it a download, I don't know what you want to call it, but there was this book that came to me in my head and I didn't know the name and I didn't know anything, but for a period of 4 hours, it came to me. On the silent retreat, one of the rules is no electronics, but I needed to write it down. So I opened my
Mm.
computer, there was no internet, and I go on Microsoft Word and I just start writing everything that was coming in because I didn't know where it was coming from. And I did that for a period of about 4 hours straight. And I was just in a trance. And
Wow.
the way that that happened was this entire outline was basically written through me because there was no conscious thought going into that. It was just coming
Mm.
through. I wrote the whole outline. In a period of 7 days, the entire book was written.
Wow.
Now I'm writing it. And as I'm writing, I'm learning things because I'm like, I didn't know that, but it's
Mm.
just coming through. And the name of this book, by the way, today is my second book that I ever released called The Language of Energy. You can find that on Amazon as well. So I'm writing this book, The Language of Energy. I come back from Costa Rica with a full script of this entire
Wow.
manuscript of the book. I put it on one of these individuals' desks. And I say, I don't know what just happened, but I wrote a book. And they said, okay, are you ready to dive deeper into Rays of Light in the portion that you were given? And I
Right.
said, yeah, let's do it. And I swear on my life, they start reading this portion to me, which was a pretty long portion. It was like
Yeah.
176 pages. And there was a whole part of the entire portion which was not identical, but nearly identical to
Right.
what I wrote in the book of Language of Energy, of the topics that were being spoken about and the way that
Wow.
they were being spoken about. And I don't know how that happened, but you tell me what world that there's a reality, apparently this one, that there's a reality where there's a book in your hand that you've never opened. You say, I'm going to read it later. You then get a download from somewhere, somehow. An entire book is written with your own two fingers on your computer in 7 days. You
Hmm.
come back, you then read the book that you didn't read before because you didn't have time to do it. And it's the same exact freaking thing. I
Wow.
was freaking out and I looked at that and I'm like, that's never happened to me before. And that's a
Right.
whole experience that I saw that you just can't make up. You know, it was there, it was right in front of me. And nobody knew about the book I was reading or
Right.
writing. They gave it to me beforehand. It was absolutely insane. So I would say that that was one of the funner experiences that I know that I
Right.
share of a supernatural experience that I had. There were other experiences that happened to me even before any of this came into my life, and maybe this is why they came into my life.
Mm.
There were quite a few dreams that I've had that were not dreams.
Right.
and that they've shown things before they happened, and then they literally happened.
Right.
Now, I'll give you one quick example. When I come from a Jewish family, we're not
Hmm.
religious anyway, but I come from a Jewish family, and I come from thankfully a very blessed family.
Hmm.
My father came from nothing. He built a lot at a very, very young age, right place, right time in real estate, oil, gasoline, things like that.
Hmm.
And the reason why I share that is because when he was deciding, what do I get this kid for his bar mitzvah when I was turning 13,
Right.
the way that he explained it was, what do I get a kid that has everything? Those were his words. He's like, yeah,
Right.
I can't buy him like an iPod. I can't buy, what am I going to get him?
Right.
And he decided to get something that was more in alignment with the roots of where I come from. And he wanted to get a Torah. Now that's something unusual for my family to get, because we're not religious in any way whatsoever. We have nothing to do with it. But he wanted to get something that like touched up on our roots. And he goes and he finds this Torah, and he wanted to find something that connected to my roots, not just in Judaism, but where I come from. I am Yemenite and Persian in my roots with my ancestors. So he wanted to find a book that came from Yemen or Persia, which is now Iran. And, those places of the world that was something that was sentimental. And he did a bunch of research, and he found this book, and there was this one book that nobody wanted, and it was just a family that was trying to sell it. And Torahs are not cheap. They could go for 50,
Yeah.
$100 because one person is writing it by hand for a year. It takes a very long time. And he found this one, and nobody really wanted it. It was 175 years old, very, very old, very unusual. And somebody wanted to sell it for like a few $1,000s. It was just like, whatever. And he said, okay, it fits the bill. It fits what we're looking for. Let's do it. Now, right around this time, before I was given this gift on my bar mitzvah,
Hmm.
I had a dream. I was 12 years old, and I had a dream. And this dream, I remember the names and these numbers and these locations and all these things. And there was a whole lineage of people that like came to me in this dream. And I remember what they looked like. I wrote it all down. And I go to my dad and I call him Abba. And I said, Abba, I had this really weird dream. And this was 2 weeks before the bar mitzvah when he gave me the Torah. And he said, okay, tell me the dream. And I never told him my dreams before.
Right.
I said, okay, I'll tell you the dream. And I started telling him about, it was a whole story of where I went to in the dream, and
Right.
these numbers that showed up, and these people with their names, and so on and so forth. And the guy starts crying, and he never cries. This
Wow.
guy's like a big macho,
Yeah.
6'4", like he is not a crier. He starts crying. I'm looking at him like, what's going on here? And he said, you'll know soon. I said, okay. Anyways, because the book is so old, and by the way, the story that I'm telling you right now, if you type in Jason Shurka, Miracle Torah, you're going to find articles written about this because of how
Wow. Okay.
he had to hire lawyers to get people to stay away from us because all of the
There.
news was coming to report on it.
Wow.
When I was 12 years old, and he didn't want me to go crazy as a kid.
Right.
So when we were leading up to the bar mitzvah, you have to read from the Torah. And to read from the Torah, there's a certain part of the scroll that I had to read from in alignment with my birthday.
Hmm.
And to do that, because it was so old, he didn't want to scroll and find the part on the bar mitzvah, because if it reads, the Torah is not kosher anymore. So he said, let me open up the entire Torah. I'll get to the point. We'll roll it back to the part, and it's going to be ready on the bar mitzvah. And when he opened up the entire scroll, written on animal skin, because that's what they do, when he opened up the entire scroll on the last page, there was somebody, and we know who it was, in the year 1910, that took something burning, like burning piece of metal or something, engraved the history of this Torah, because it was so old, the history of this Torah onto the back of the piece of skin of what was written on the Torah. And it gave you all these dates and names and numbers and so on and so forth. And it's exactly what I wrote down that happened in my dream.
Wow.
Turns out that the Torah that just fell into our hands by chance and coincidence was written by my great, 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 great grandfather.
What? That's wild.
And the dates, it's a much longer story, but the dates of what we're talking about here, the guy that originally wrote it, who was my great, 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 great grandfather, was born on my birthday to the date exactly 200 years before I was born, and
Wow.
died on the day that I was going to read on June 13th, 2010,
Wow.
same day of the week. And interestingly enough, the portion that I was reading on my birthday, when you look at the Torah, you'll see that it's two completely different handwritings, which never happens because one person writes the entire thing. The guy died in the middle. My great 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 grandfather died in the middle of writing that specific portion, and his son, who has the same name as me by chance, because we didn't know that he existed, continued writing it. So one guy dies and one guy continues on the exact portion that I'm meant to read. And all the dates coincide with either the day that I was born or the day that I was reading the Torah on June 13th, 2010 on my bar mitzvah. So the story that the news started bringing was Jason's the reincarnation of this guy. And my dad was like, you're going to make the kid go crazy. Stay away from him. And that's why you're only going to find one or two, maybe three articles, because he stopped a lot. There were people coming to our house to try and do interviews and press and so on and so forth because of what a big story it was. But to bring this all into a summarized way, the fact that I had a dream of exactly what was written
Right.
on the back of that scroll in the year 1910 to the point of names, dates. I even remember what they looked like.
Right.
I can't make it up, you know. And I
No,
was
you can't.
12. Like, nobody could come and I know what people told me, and I know what they didn't. We didn't know about that,
Right.
and it's a personal experience that nobody can take away from me because it was phenomenal. So I think that that's maybe one of the there's some sort of connection to that versus
Yeah.
why certain things happen to me later in life.
I think so. Yeah.
Don't
You know,
underestimate the power that you have as a human being.
that's right.
And it's
And
incredible.
the mystical knows no linear time. The mystical operates throughout. You know, it is not bound by what we understand to be space time. You know, in fact, it's very quantum, and so it makes perfect sense to me what happened to you then and what path you ended up on, my friend. You know, I want to mention. I know that, and I heard you talk about this, and I just think it's so fascinating. You know that there was an attempt at an intervention with some TLS agents, and this was in Australia, I believe. I think 2022 maybe was the year you mentioned, but there was a massive casualty event, and I was just wondering if you wanted to touch on that because it's such a captivating, you know, and human beings are obviously enamored with battles and duality, and so I just thought it would be really interesting for my audience to hear. I think I recall you saying where like how like almost 2,000 people perished, you know, in kind of in the line of duty. And I was
Yeah,
wondering if you could talk about that a little bit, and then I'm just going to fire some of these questions I have off, and we'll
sure,
do
sure.
like a
Yeah, so that what you're talking about is not one event. That
okay,
was over a period of a year or two. They went from 7,000 members to 5,000 members because 2,000 of them, more or less, I don't know exact numbers, but
hmm
2,000 of them were killed. And they risked their lives. That's what they do. We all risk our lives in some way. That's part of the danger that I was faced with coming out with this.
right,
And I was told very directly, Jason, you got to understand that if you choose to do this, it's not going to be an easy path. And just like you're going to have people that love you, the enemies are watching as well. And I kind of looked at it as my insurance policy because if I'm giving information that the other side wants to see, then why would you want me dead? Maybe that's just in my head, but there is a very real risk over there. So Australia, the reason why he focused on that was because Australia was, and maybe is still, I don't know, but definitely at that time was a big hub for a lot of the trafficking and things that we're talking about there. And by the way, that's also why you saw so much more strict rules when it came to lockdowns in those parts of the world. There were certain
right. Australia was like a prison. Yep.
yeah, they had it harder than others. And that's where the organization was taking advantage of that. And in some cases, making it even harder. It's going to sound bad, but it's true, making it even harder for people to leave the house so they can get their job done from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. at nighttime when they had to do what they had to do to fix certain things or save certain people and so on and so forth. So I could tell you one that I remember. It was on September 21st, 2021, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 2020. I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what year, but all of these videos are recorded for everybody to see. And there was an operation where they had to go to Portugal. But to get to Portugal, there are certain ways to get there using certain trains and whatnot from New York City. It sounds crazy, but that's what's going on. Things like what Elon Musk wants to do now with maglev trains.
Yeah, things
Between,
they've been doing underground for 30 years.
yeah, between New York and London, that's not a new invention. That's been around for years.
Right.
So there are certain tunnel systems that they use to get from certain places, one place to another. And I never understood why they allowed me to share what I shared.
Hmm.
They gave me information of something they were going to do. They gave me the date. They told me what they were going to do. I said, "Can I share it?" And they said, "You can share it." So I shared it. And lo and behold, the obvious obviously happened. I still don't understand what they did that day. I don't get why they did this. But there was an operation where 20 individuals were going on that train from New York to Portugal in September, on September 21st, in whatever year it was, 2020 or 2021, to do something in Portugal. And Ray was a part of that. And to be exact, if my memory serves me right, there were 18 men and 2 women that were a part of the operation, agents that were a part of the operation, Ray being one of them. When they got to where they got to leave from New York to Portugal, there was an ambush. Now, to me, it's obvious there would be one because we just told them what's going on. So I don't
Right.
really understand what that whole thing was about. Maybe there are things I don't get, but I'm just telling you what happened in the first-hand
Right.
experience. Ray goes on this operation. He actually, in this case, left out of somewhere, if my memory serves me correctly, in Long Island. There was an ambush. 17 people were killed. 3 of them survived, 1 being Ray and 2 of the women.
Wow.
So they got out of there. And I was there with him that night here
Wow.
in New York because part of how they ambush, it's not with regular guns. They use certain technologies that use, it's literally like Star Wars, like laser guns.
It's like scalar weaponry, right? Like, or
I
something
don't know
along.
exactly what it is. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly how it works. But the light system as the organization, TLS, has certain, to my knowledge, has certain suits that they're going to give, that they give to individuals that go down there that will protect. Think of it like a bulletproof vest, but for those weapons. Now, it still hurts. You still get a lot of damage, just like you would if a bullet hits a vest.
Right.
You're not going to die. The type of damage in this case is radiation poisoning.
Right.
I remember when all of this happened, somebody called me. I went to meet him, and there were other people there as well. He was not in good shape. He was feeling
Right.
very, 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 very bad. It looked like he was dying. And he showed me and certain other people where to press to release the radiation from the body. It was the craziest.
Wow.
And it was 2 fingers like this. And I don't remember all the details exactly, but if my memory serves me right, it was underneath the knee, but on the other side of the leg. And there was another woman there that was pressing on other parts of the body. He was instructing us what to do. It took a period of maybe 20 or 30 minutes. He released a lot of it. He was still sick for a period of time, but he got through it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I have firsthand experience in seeing him not there. I've never been to those places, but I
Right.
saw the consequence of what happened over there.
Wow.
And then I reported on the ambush because I was allowed to do that. So I don't always understand why they do what they do, but that was one experience that I had.
Wow. That's amazing and incredible that you actually were there with him that night, and you could see the physical consequences of this attack and ambush. That's cool. That's kind of what I was asking for, and what I was hoping you had been a witness to, because it lends a lot of credibility to what you're saying.
Or people just think I'm crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always say, if you're not.
Oh,
I did it again. Sorry, new mic. I'm just getting used to it.
all good.
If you got to be out of your mind and in your heart. That's what I always say. Like if you're living up here and you're stuck up here, you're missing a lot of what's actually going on.
I always tell people from a logical standpoint, always ask, you got to ask with everybody, what would be their motive for sharing what they're sharing?
Right.
And with me, it makes it easier because anybody that knows me, anybody that follows me knows where I come from. So that already takes out the money and fame situation because we had it, right?
Right.
That was never something that we wanted to build to. If anything, it cost me reputation.
Right.
It needed a cost to do it, but I felt that it was the right thing to do, so I did.
Good for you, man. It's inspiring. So I'm going to fire these off of you because I know we only have a little bit of time left, and you
problem.
just have to give me your short answer as well as you can.
I'll give you summaries. You got it.
Oh, okay. Are some of our world leaders not human?
Sorry, but how do you define not human? Like, are they
That's a
are,
great point.
are they like an extraterrestrial that came here from somewhere else and is leading the world?
Well, let's open it up to more extra everything. Let's say.
Okay, so my answer in short would be yes. And there are also many people that aren't human because we all come from different places.
I agree with that absolutely. Is the land of darkness another way of saying a place where hell exists?
From the human perspective, yes, but there is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as punishment. There is no such thing as, there's just such thing as if I jump off a building, I will hit the ground. That's not a punishment. That's a consequence of jumping off the building.
Agreed, 110%. Because my next question was going to be, why would a benevolent creator then torture his creations for exerting the free will he gifted them? But I think you already answered that.
He's not torturing anybody. You're
That's
torturing
right.
yourself. That's
That's
like saying,
right.
why would a benevolent creator or like God allow for children to be? And my question would then be, why are humans raping kids?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We are aligned in that in a great many ways. So can a soul be erased by the creator?
The creator, whatever we're talking about here, can do anything, even if it's something that doesn't make any sense. So my answer would be yes, because there is no limit to what the ultimate power that is everything can do. Although, according to the laws of physics, it doesn't make sense because
Right.
energy can't be created or destroyed. But when you're talking about God or
Right.
whatever this ultimate power is that is everything, I don't think those laws apply.
I agree. And if the divine intelligence that created all of this decided, then we would probably never know it anyway, because that's what's in charge of creating all this. Are angels and demons real?
Construct of humanity.
Agreed again. Here's a good one. Is Trump playing 4D chess or just being played?
Maybe both.
Yep, we agree on that as well. I think a little of both. These seems to be more and more. Every time.
I happen to know his family very closely.
Okay.
And I know certain beliefs that he holds. Some I agree, some I don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I say both. I like the guy. I think he's a smart guy. I think he has communication issues. I think that if that was solved, other things would have. I like the way that he's raw.
Yeah.
And I like that. But in the world of what we're living in, there are certain ways to not be politically correct, but be a little bit more refined
Yeah.
in the way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I can't speak for this term, but his first term, there were no wars. There was a lot of peace.
Right.
Maybe I personally agree with Ray on this one. I don't think, and again, I like the guy, but I don't think he's strong enough. I think you need somebody stronger.
Agreed.
I don't know if that person exists right now.
I don't know if it does either. You need someone who's willing to risk everything, including
You
their
need somebody
life.
with really big balls to take
Yep.
action.
I mean, someone who's willing to put their life on the line and go against,
Well,
this.
he put his life on the line, right?
For sure, but
You know,
you know what I mean, though. Like you need, I mean,
you got to be really crazy to fix the world's
That's
problem.
right. I mean, and then you got to kind of be smart in a way that these entities and families and powers seem to be like the way JFK tried, except then he set himself up. He was double crossing the double crossers,
Yeah.
which is
I think at the end of the day, all these people, they're human beings. Trump's a
Yeah.
human being, JFK's a human being, and they may be good in some things and they may be bad at other things, and that's fine because they're humans.
it's true. And the fact of the matter is, and I say this all the time, until we wake up collectively as a human family and realize that we have given our power away in just about every way, as a society, as a systemic symptom of the convenient structure we've placed ourselves in, until we decide to take that back, there's not going to be one person who comes along and makes the kind of changes that's going to really shift things. We have all the power. We just have to. Somebody has to wake everyone up. I mean, and collectively, there are those of us who are trying to realize that, wait a minute, we're making this up. We can rewrite the rules anytime we want.
Yeah,
In fact,
you could look at it as the opposite with Hitler too. I mean, in a negative way, Hitler didn't kill everybody. He wanted to, and then everybody said, "Okay, let's do it."
and everyone did it for him.
Yeah, so the opposite is true as well. If you have somebody that said, let's do X, that's good, well, then you need everybody to follow suit too.
Right. Right. And you know, same thing, as above, so below. It's like if we can make ourselves collectively sick as a society with what we're doing and eating, and then we can make ourselves collectively whole and healthy and vibrant, and we can change things. It has to start from within, you know.
100%.
How do you, and people have a real hard time with this one, but for some of us who have really spent time down this rabbit hole, there's really no question about it. But how do you hide free energy from 8 billion people for so long?
That's a good question. How do you convince 8 billion people to do something that's going to kill them?
Yeah.
It's the same way you control the stream of information.
All right.
You make anybody that comes out with anything either die or sound crazy or both. And you keep people being slaves. I mean, it's pretty simple. We live in a world of slavery, and it didn't end when, slavery ended in America. It still very much exists. It just exists in a different way, and in my opinion, in a worse way. So it has to do with suppressing awareness, suppressing knowledge, suppressing information, getting people to be so busy that they don't even have time to think about it. The 3 jobs, be in debt or die.
Survival mode. Yep.
That's it.
You're right. I mean, how do you convince people that we're the only beings that we know exist when it should be
the dumbest thing I've ever heard in the world?
Yeah, tell me about it. It's like, well, wait a minute, how did they get here? I mean, what do you think, they filled their craft up with some gasoline? You know what I mean? Like, are we really stuck thinking in the Rockefeller system of control that we've been exposed to, and physics included? It's just crazy to me. Do you think Agenda 2030 is being rolled out in a successful manner, and how much will it impact and or disintegrate life, as we know it?
I think Agenda 2030 is definitely being rolled out. How successful is going to be up to us. And when I say up to us, it means how much do you want to stand up to it? I think there's there's already digital money. Money is digital. Even with cash, you put the cash in the bank, it turns into a number on the screen. Now, I don't have a problem with that so long as it's not used to control you and hurt you.
Right.
Problem here is not Agenda 2030. The problem here are the people and the corrupted consciousness behind Agenda 2030. Because if you look at Agenda 2030, it's basically saying, let's centralize everything. Let's have digital money. There's no problem with centralization if you don't have psychopaths in charge.
Right.
So I don't think the problem is in the effect. I think the cause is not Agenda 2030. The cause is a corrupted consciousness. And if we could fix that, then centralization, one world government is not a bad thing in a good world. It's a bad thing in a sick world.
Right. No, I mean, I often, when I visualize the future, I see the borders fall away, but not because, they've been annihilated, but because they're no longer needed, because everyone is welcome to move and travel among certain cultures and peoples. And that's just, they're welcomed with open arms, because we all thrive from this interaction. Like, that's the future that I visualize. And it, then you start to understand that it's not that a one world government can be good or bad, but it's simply an umbrella that's in place to allow for the freedom and liberty and thriving of a species of people, which, once we roll out the technology that's been hidden, you're going to be able to visit China in minutes, not hours. You're going to be able to move large amounts of people, food,
and you're not going to need a passport to do it.
And you shouldn't,
Yeah, I agree.
I do see that part of it. And it's like, it's just amazing how these people, these certain families have come into so much power, and they have such a specific agenda and so many plans that they have in place to try to get to that end point where control is a lot easier. It's just, it's crazy, but conversations like this give me great hope and excite me. Your work gives me great hope and excites me. I've been a fan for many years, and we see eye to eye on so many things, Jason. So this has been a fantastic conversation. I know that we're running out of time. I want to give my listeners who may just be learning about you and hearing about you for the first time a chance to hear where they can follow you and subscribe and check you out and watch your stuff.
Sure. So you could definitely go to Unifyd TV, unifyd.tv, spelt UNIFYD, UNIFYD, Unifyd TV. It's where you could watch the Disclosure series, Conversations with Ray, everything uncensored, and tons of other things like amazing investigative journalism, amazing
Documentaries, shows,
yeah,
all
some
kinds of
really, really good stuff there. And if you want to learn more about the light system as a technology, you can go to the light systems in plural, thelightsystems.com. Check it out, a cube, a pyramid, the bigger units. Go check out a center near you and take the next step to just live a healthier life.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening on Spotify and iTunes, please don't forget to drop us a review or a couple stars if you enjoyed this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, my God, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We know so many people are just watching them, but they're not subscribing. So and please share this video. We're trying to overcome a lot of algorithmic suppression because the subjects I like to talk about are not exactly the most popular with Silicon Valley and the people who run it. So, but that being said, thank you so much for your time, Jason. It's been a pleasure, brother.
Thank you for doing the work you're doing.
Appreciate it, man. We'll have to do it again one day.
We will. Just reach out. We'll make it happen.
Okay, brother. We'll do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.